Yeah, good morning, friends. A hearty welcome to all of you at the next edition of the VDMA CEO's Thought Leadership Series. And a proud privilege for me today to welcome Mr. Georg Graf. Mr. Graf is the MD and CEO of Freudenberg Regional Corporate Center India Private Limited. He's done his business administration from the University of Augsburg in Germany. Mr. Graf has worked with Sinamid in Germany and with Kluber Lubrications in the head office and in India. And since 2013, he is the CEO of Freudenberg Regional Corporate Center in India. And also, friends, Mr. Graf is the immediate past president of the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. So hearty welcome to you, Mr. Graf. Pleasure to have you with us today to share your thoughts on CEO leadership, I would say, Mr. Graf.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nath. It's really a great pleasure for me to talk to you personally. But I think it's also an honor for me to talk to VDMA and also for Freudenberg. It's a great deal. I strongly believe that your organization, VDMA, is, if it comes to business, if it comes to technology, if it comes to economy and bilateral relation, India, Germany, and I hope this will cover also our session today and your questions. I feel VDMA is one of the front runners. And actually, Mr. Nath, you should be sitting in my chair because hardly anyone knows India and Germany and the bi-national relationship better than you have lived in both of the countries. You know the culture. And I could imagine you could do better than any other CEO. If you don't find any other CEO anymore, Mr. Nath, I would be happy to take your part and to ask you about the things from your perspective. So we just changed the seat at the table and we will do it. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you for the compliments, Mr. Graf. And as I said, pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Graf. Mr. Graf, let's look at the present scenario. I think the last 6 to 7 months have been totally unprecedented. COVID hit us and it has impacted almost 217 countries. More than 40 million people have been infected with COVID. People call it the black swan of 2020. With we are facing global recession, maybe minus 5%. India is also predicted, the GDP growth is predicted to slump to somewhere between 10%, Mr. Graf. Mr. Graf, let's start with what has been the impact of COVID-19 on Freudenberg in India, as well as if you could also highlight Freudenberg in Germany. How were you impacted due to COVID, Mr. Graf?
Okay, to be honest, 217 countries, I didn't know that there are so many countries globally. I guess each and every country is really impacted. Well, Corona, for sure, Corona is the mother of all crises. We never thought about it or something similar could happen. In all our risk inventories and risk management files, we have something like a pandemic or so, but nobody really believed in it. It is almost like a flight from Bangalore to Hyderabad. You know, we get briefed to use the life vest, the swim vest, but we don't believe in it, and nobody is really listening to it. And sometimes I feel the same is with Corona and whatever. Corona is for sure, Corona is a world changer. Just read the news, just Google, talk to your friends. If I talk to my family, we talk about Corona. We have seen tsunami, we have seen 9/11, we have seen 26/11 in India, earlier Hiroshima. I'm too young for this, but we have seen Ebola, Spanish fever. I didn't even know that there was a Spanish fever already 100 years back or so. We have seen all the ugly battlefields in the world, climate change, global warming, oceans full of plastic, no glaciers anymore. All this, I would say, buzzwords in a very negative sense, but Corona, I think, topped everything. It's really a strategic and a long-term shock. And I feel it is more a threat for democracy, first of all. And it is an opportunity also for very dangerous leaders. We can see this in the EU, we can see this in maybe US, and in a lot of other countries. Business, and you ask for business. Business for sure has lost revenues, has lost margins, has lost profits, contingency. Entire business models got wiped out. Could we ever imagine a Airbus A380 get grounded? I have seen colleagues, they have changed their flight schedule in the beginning only to fly A380, and now, I mean, it's not even existing. I'm concerned about business, and we have a business talk today, but I'm also concerned about people and society, and I'm concerned about ethical values, and I'm concerned about peace and solidarity. People around the globe, and I think around all segments, each and every one has almost lost the basis of life. This is in my mind first, and I think this is a challenge which we never got into before. You're asking about Freudenberg. We have to understand that Freudenberg has a corporate history of 171 years.
Wow. Yeah.
50,000 people do business in almost 60 countries. So we have a good understanding what is happening on the ground. And I would say change was always and is always part of the DNA of Freudenberg. We are a family-owned organization, so the family values are still very important for our daily business. And Freudenberg is used to a changing environment. It's a challenge and an opportunity at the same time. At Freudenberg, we went successfully through 2008 and 2009. And we came out successfully, actually, and we came out with a lot of learning. I would say our global board of management sitting in the headquarters in Germany, and also our business groups, we have around 10 industrial segments, business groups, and corporate functions did a good job. I think we are clear that you can lose turnover in a crisis, but you should never lose market shares. I think most of the corporates now, and we have seen this in all the other discussions we had, have changed from a profit to cost liquidity funds management very fast. And I think corporates also take a lot of time now to connect to employees and to explain activities to their employees. We discussed so many shapes, V, W, 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 and whatever. I mean, it's unbelievable, but we do not know. We do not know what is happening. Right. What we see at Freudenberg is that the markets are slowly coming back on the short term. A lot of colleagues have told me that they see some Diwali hype. We are here on 20th of October in front of Dussehra and Diwali. So we could see some relaxation from this perspective. For Freudenberg, India and also globally, the most important segment, the automotive segment, will be back only in 2024, 2025 to a level of 2019. So the crisis, Corona, is eating up some years of our doing. We lost a month or so in 2020 with all the consequences. But we have to see also we had a very successful decade already now after the financial crisis. And we have not lost the momentum. And this is very important to also work on our strategic goals. Our strategic goals for Freudenberg: new mobility, digitalization, and also sustainability. Sustainability with a strong focus on climate change. Mm-hmm. I think just two more ideas. I think one impact for India in general, and what I saw in a lot of discussions also in the chamber and with other colleagues, is that the best risk management during a pandemic or for such a crisis is skills. Yeah. 9 out of 10 employees in the unorganized sector have lost their jobs within a fortnight or so. Mm. Now you can ask about the responsibility of German MNCs in India. I think we have around 1,800 German MNCs in India, and ask them about their responsibility towards the employees. I leave the answer open. My last comment, and this could be trivial, but I feel it's very important. Many colleagues told me, and I feel also, the planning has totally changed in this pandemic. Earlier, 1 month, a 2 months, a 3 months forecast was very robust. You could plan very easily. Now even a week or a fortnightly forecast is really tough. It's a tough projection and almost not anymore possible.
Right. I think very well said, Mr. Graf. Especially the uncertainty factor is looming so high over everything that, as you correctly said, even the next month's planning is tough to make under these circumstances. Mr. Graf, you've been in India for quite a long time, in fact, over a decade. During this last 10 to 12 years, India has transformed itself. If I may ask you, Mr. Graf, if you could highlight 2 positive aspects, what you have seen India changing in the last 10 to 2 years, and maybe 2 aspects where India could have done better in this transformation phase, Mr. Graf. It's a tricky question, I know, but I would. You have always been very frank and open in the discussion, Mr. Graf. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting, Mr. Laut. Actually, to be precise, it's 12.5 years I'm here in India now. You ask for 2 aspects each. I guess you ask for 2 lakh aspects. There's a lot, as you know, in India. Yes. Maybe to take a little bit this up, let me start with what has remained. I would say on the very light side, the blessing of a mango season is still there. Also, we have more mango showers now, but mango is one of the best things of India 12 years back and now also. The taste of dosa is unchanged. The taste of Tamil Nadu dosa and tomato chutney, unbelievable. And I would say the celebration of chai and filter coffee is for sure not changed. On the lighter side, what has improved? On the lighter side, we have wonderful Indian white wines now. Right. I think a lot of people have really done a good job. We have not seen this 12.5 years back, and especially here in and around Bangalore, wonderful and a really good job and sustainable work. And we know agricultural work is sustainable work, and this is nothing from today to tomorrow. I am by passport a German, but by heart a Bavarian, as you know. And even I have transformed from a beer drinker to an Indian white wine lover. So this means a lot.
Oh, that's good. Right.
Shame on me, but maybe it's also because the beer of the good times is not so good, you know. What has changed also? What has improved? GST. When I was relocating to India, the first phrase I have learned was GST, and I have asked, "What is GST?" And they mentioned, "Hey, it's goods and services tax." And I say, 175 countries have a VAT system. There's nothing. What does this mean, you know? And they mentioned, "Oh, we have a very complicated indirect tax system and all the things, you know." So GST is definitely also a game changer in India. And I think this is really something which has made India to a homogeneous market. Unfortunately, it was discussed too much, I feel, to my perspective, in between of the central and the states, and it's got diluted a lot. But it is a good beginning, and it is a competitive element for India also. What has not improved? And I have to come back, you know him also very well, to Dr. Martin Ney, our former German ambassador. He always mentioned when he was a diplomat par excellence, so they never give a frank opinion. They are very balanced in their wordings. And he always mentioned definitely not the respect for public goods in India has changed. I mean pollution, I mean honking, I mean the missing maintenance, I mean the quality approach in infrastructure and so on. This is something which has really not changed. But now, as you mentioned at the beginning, I think your question is also a little bit reflecting the complexity of India. India is complex and we can't explain it in 1-2 examples. In my role as the president of the IGCC and in all other activities, I have met a lot of delegations, I met of visitors. I had to give a lot of presentations in India, in Germany. I have stopped to talk about the complexity and try to explain India. I have 2 phrases, and I normally explain India with my 2 phrases, and I think it gives all. And I show 20 slides full of pictures. I show our wonderful people, the festivals, the fruits, the spices, the buildings, the natures, the animals, and whatever. And I mentioned I will not talk about this because I can't talk about all this complexity. I talk about India, and I mentioned India is patience and relations. Right. Patience and relations. I can cover 95% of all cases. And I learned last year a wonderful phrase from Miss Thoma. She's the ambassador, the Indian ambassador of Germany, wonderful, soft-spoken lady, wonderful, matured and whatever. And she mentioned during our AGM in Düsseldorf, India is the youngest connected democracy in the world. And I say this says all, you know, youngest, we have the demographic factor, connected, we have this powerhouse of IT, and we have the values also, we have the democracy. On the lighter side and coming from the soft skills, I think the reputation of India has not changed a lot. We fly many times LH 755 Bangalore, Frankfurt, not this year, but normally 7-8 times. What is happening, you know? I mean, we board the flight, we ask for plenty of water, we talk English, nobody understands. We are not risk takers in food. We have a body language, nobody is understanding. We have yellow shirts, we have red trousers. This is the picture we give in the Western world. Please understand it in the right context. Right. But I think here we could do better. I think there's still too many people who take bricks to build up walls. And there's too many people who take color to mark borders. And I think there's too many people who are using corners not to give shelter to people, but to put people into a corner and say, we are here, you stay there. I think we should take more bricks to build public toilets, to build infrastructure, to build schools, factories, maybe STPs and whatever. Then we would do better. And we have to execute better in our country. This has not changed. We have to execute better. We discuss 2%. If we discuss 40% and only execute 10%, then we would have a result. So this is what we do. I mean, you know, ease of doing business. What is ranking 77? What does mean an improvement to rank 63 or so? I don't understand, I have no idea. If I make my reality check, I see endless KYC processes and approval processes. I see that payments get deferred and delayed, custom clearings get delayed. I see long queue migration at FRO during lockdown. A wonderful example during lockdown. We could open our plants very early. There was a wonderful online process to get essential goods approved and to open up. Wonderful process, successful. But then to get e-passes for our employees, we had to queue up again in front of a government office or at the police station for days. So I mean, this is a little bit the situation also in India.
Well, I think the way you've summed up the complexities, Mr. Graf, amazing. In 10 to 12 minutes, you have summed up a lot of factors you've compressed, and I think only Mr. Graf can do it in the way you've done it, Mr. Graf. Amazing how you put it together. But thank you. I think very good ideas and I really liked your statement, patience and relations. I think that is very important in India, and also the youngest connected democracy. I think, yes, we have a young population, and with the connectivity, the application of digital platforms in India is increasing. Mr. Graf, one of the points also is very important is the skill development in India. If India has to grow, if our industry has to grow, the skill level of the people has to increase. You have been a very strong proponent of skill development. If I may ask you, Mr. Graf, what are the skill sets you find with your vast experience? What are the skill gaps in India? And also, as Freudenberg, the Freudenberg training, very passionate about this project. If you could let us, we would like to hear from you a few words also on this project, Mr. Graf.
Sure. Two examples or two clear examples, because this is a very wide field. I'm German, Mr. Nord, and I have seen that the backbone of the German economic miracle, the Wirtschaftswunder after World War II, was the Mittelstand, SMSE companies, and vocational trained workforce. This was the two success factors of Germany, beside of a lot of luck and hard work and whatever. I started my career also actually with the vocational training, not with the university training. And this is the first point what I miss personally in India. I think the society has to accept vocational trained people, and as a result, this skill has to feed a family in a sustainable way. You have lived in Germany, you know, in Germany, if a plumber is coming to your house after many weeks, he has normally a better car than you. He's a better income. he's a pillar in the society with the Ehrenamt and whatever. Normally, he is a member of parliament or whatever, you know. He is the president of a club, of a Verein and so on. But he does his job very professional, and he is executing. This is what I miss in India a lot when it comes to skills development, society acceptance, and the professional education. The first phrase when I came to India 12 and a half years back, one was GST, I talked about it, and the other was bypassing. The first day anyone told me bypassing, I thought, hey, what is bypass? Bypass was something at the heart. In the meantime, I understand what is bypassing rules, regulations. If I go home from office, two-wheelers are bypassing at the footpath and whatever, you know, we notice. But this bypassing is not working in skill development, especially in vocational training, because it is not sustainable. Skill development means sharing of skills. It's a practical approach. You know, in a German office, in a German shop floor, 10 months in a week, 10 months in a year, apprentice is sitting next to you, and he wants to get your skill set. You have to explain the skill set and whatever by doing. How is it working in India? We get a trainee. The trainee is put up in a meeting room for 6 weeks, and then he or she has to make one presentation. This is training in India. Skills development, especially vocational training, needs personal engagement. It needs not ticking the box of any question papers. Skills development, vocational training is more to show how, less to know how. You have to show anyone how it is a totally wrong approach in India. I can't imagine that skill development in the vocational area is working in this top-down approach. It is a bottom-up approach. Mm-hmm. It will never be successful with the central approach. Mm-hmm. You have to give decision-making powers to states, to districts, maybe to cities, maybe to industries. You know, in Germany, education is a state affair. It is not triggered out of Berlin, and therefore it is very successful. We need teachers. We don't have teachers, vocational training teachers in India. They have to come from the industry. They have to be professionals. They have to have empathy. And in India, we have this crazy hype of academic degrees. It is unbelievable. See now the discussion just a few weeks back in the pandemic. See this awful discussion about these CETs, central entrance tests. I mean, the newspapers were full, whether it should happen or not, and whatever, you know, and brought all the students under a big risk to come to the centers and whatever. I feel it's also a good opportunity for the bilateral relationship India and Germany, especially to exchange apprentices. There's a lot of opportunities, and I wanted to work in this actually when I was the president, but 6 months I was blocked, and it was almost not possible. I see also, and this is my last point to India before I come to the training center, I see a big gap in the Indian society when it comes to give back to the society. I don't talk about CSR activities now. I think all of us have given food kits to anyone and whatever. I am talking about the social volunteering. We have a wonderful German phrase, the Ehrenamt.
Right.
And this is a sustainable engagement for the society. For example, my presidency in the Indo-German Chamber, I saw it as Ehrenamt. I have spent the time of Freudenberg, but I have spent also my personal time just to do more for our two countries. And I feel it is worth to do for this.
Right.
Now we have a wonderful case study in Freudenberg. We have a Freudenberg training center. After tsunami in 2004, as you know, the district of Nagapattinam was the most impacted. Around 20,000 people lost their lives. And we wanted to do not relief, we wanted to do rehabilitation. We wanted to do a long-term impact. And after a lot of exchange of ideas, we came up with the idea to set up an ITI. And nowadays we have 5 trades. We have welders, fitters, machinists, we have mechanics, motor mechanics, and we have electrician, just a few years back. Electrician, because it is extremely attractive for girls. And we are very proud that we have lady teachers, and we have a lot of female students now also there. And we want to empower the young students. We want to give them a basis for their life and a sustainable source for income. And this is not all. So we really try to make them to adults who can also contribute in the society. So we give them life skills training. We teach them English. We give them conflict management trainings, breaking barriers. For the first time, female students have to work together in one shop floor, in one classroom. This is what we want to do, and we see this as really a footprint. How Freudenberg has put up the idea of long-term thinking and a vision. There's a lot more to tell about the Freudenberg Training Center, but just let me bring it to one phrase. It is a wonderful feeling to young people.
Mm-hmm. And also compliments Mr. Graf on behalf of VDMA for the good work that the Freudenberg Training Center is doing, and to you also, Mr. Graf, since I know you're personally very much involved in this training center, and I remember you telling me you on the weekends also you're taking off your personal time to visit the training center, to visit the center. So all the best for the future for this training center also.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Graf,
I can invite you one day and we go together.
Sure, it would be a pleasure. I think when things are normal again, I would love to come and see the training center also. Thank you, Mr. Graf. Yeah. Mr. Graf, if you look at let's come to the global scenario a little bit. In the last few years, we've been seeing that the concept of globalization is changing. In fact, there's a general perception that we are moving away from open boundaries and we are closing the trade. In fact, national interests are being given priority. We have also, for example, the trade war between China and US. There are a lot of such examples. What are your views, Mr. Graf? Would the pandemic accelerate this process of closing the boundaries, more national interest, or do you feel it would change this concept? And maybe I would just like to add one more aspect here. The Indian government has come with the slogan of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is talking about self-reliant India. What are your views to this also, Mr. Graf?
It's a very interesting question. I think it's the topic and the need of now. I don't believe fully in the impact of China-US trade war. I feel this is only a very short-term bilateral disturbance. Unfortunately, in the global world now, it's an impact to almost all countries or to partners who partner with these two companies. If you see how this trade war is motivated and triggered, you can see it is based on a very immature and personal assumption only. So it will be short term. I feel, and we talk about India and Germany, I think the bilateral situation, Germany, EU. I think we can't use anymore Germany alone. We have to use also EU and India. As you know, we have a free trade agreement which is pending since 12 years or so. I think 12 years.
A good 50, yeah, maybe a little longer.
Years, even more, you know. I think this is more needing attention than a bilateral trade war. What does it mean if we don't solve the free trade agreement? What does it mean? Your children, your grandchildren, my children, my grandchildren, maybe later, they will not anymore follow DIN norms, DIN norms. They will not follow anymore ISO norms. They will follow Chinese norms. The question is whether we want this, And I'm really irritated, and you mentioned this, that politicians, but also the media, have always such a short-term horizon. They just want to get elected, or they want to get a next headline for tomorrow. And normally a bad headline, because bad news is selling better. Globalization versus domestic strategies, I see both combined. I see both combined. I mean, I'm coming from a country, I mean, we stand in for globalization. I stand in for globalization. But we have also, I would say, a very solid view to our domestic affairs and whatever. Self-reliant India, you mentioned this phrase, not new, but I have never understood why it comes up now. Why gets it such a focus now? I want to emphasize this maybe on one example. I don't know whether we talk about the relief program later, what India has set up. As you know, all the other countries have a large relief program for pandemic, and the bank account is really impacted of a corporate in this world. I have not seen this in India. But there was one example, if you remember, there was one bullet point for the tenders. So the relief program has limited also the process of tendering towards Indian company only in a certain framework. But what does it mean? Does it mean what is the outcome? Indian companies by far do not have all the technology and the processes on hand to fulfill all criteria in a public tender process. So the result will be, it is a compromise again in quality and in technology, again and again. And it's a very short-term view. And on the long term, it is again a pushback for Indian companies. So I don't see all these elements. I mean, simply do it. I'm really asking the question: what has India done in 73 years? What has been done from 70s and from the 90s to now? What has been done from 2014? What has been done from 2019? Why they come up now with this? I don't believe in this. Investment or a business-related decision is always based among a lot of other criteria, whether the company who is going for the decision gets a benefit out of their decision. To do business or to invest, to go global or to stay domestic.
Right.
To show interest, to engage, maybe to invest, to stay in a region. If you have decided a region, maybe for a country. If you have decided for a country, you go for a state. Tamil Nadu, for example, you go for a city, Chennai, and in Chennai, you go for industrial park A or B. But you want to get the benefit out of it. Globalization will happen as long as market players see a positive outcome. Right. They will go for a decision, they will go for investment. A company will go to India, a company will go to China, or a company will go to Timbuktu. It doesn't matter. They have to have a benefit. This is my view.
Right. I think that's a very valid point, Mr. Graf. Certainly companies will come where the market is open, where they are welcomed, and as well as where there is good potential. If I may just add one aspect to the Atmanirbhar Bharat, Mr. Graf. I think the whole aim is, of course, no country can become self-reliant or self-resilient. You will always require to have imports and exports. I think that is what the global trade is all about. I think the whole concept is perhaps through development of the domestic industry. But then it is also very important that, as you correctly pointed out, that the global, because after all, the business will come when you have the global markets open. Because if you're restraining your markets, you're limiting also the market area. And until and unless you have a global open marketplace where companies can freely export and import. And I think that is going to be really, because India is one of the, that's what we say, strength of India is the Binnenmarkt, or our domestic market, what we have here. But I think it is now with the development of Make in India programs and the aspiration of the Indian entrepreneurs also to export. I think for that, it is very essential that the free trade agreements are there so that people can freely trade. And with that, I would like to also come to one point or aspect which is very close to your heart, Mr. Graf, is the Indo-German bilateral trade. We are both working towards enhancing the Indo-German bilateral trade. I had much earlier, Mr. Graf. So, Mr. Graf, if you look at it, the bilateral trade is around 21 billion euros. Now, of course, it's a good figure, but there is a general feeling that the potential is much more to develop this bilateral trade. And I would here like to ask you, if an Indian, let's say if we are talking about development of the bilateral trade, now an Indian manufacturer going to Germany with the Make in India brand or with his Make in India products, what would be your 2 or 3 suggestions to him? How can he really sell in Germany? How can he convince the companies in Germany to buy the products with the Make in India tag? That has been one part of the question. And the second, if some thoughts on the bilateral trade from your side also, Mr. Graf.
It's a very good question. I like it. But to be honest, I have no idea about the volume of the bilateral trade. You mentioned this.
21 billion it is, yes.
Yeah. I know that Germany and EU are quite important partners for India.
Yes.
Maybe number 1, 2 or 3, yes. And I think also that India is only ranked 13 or 14, 15th from a point of view out of EU. So there is, just to have these 2 things, there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, where do we stand today? Let's start. Where do we stand today? India and EU, Germany. I think particularly Germany and India, we are natural partners. Actually, we are natural partners. We are committed to free global trade, despite of all the policies what we have discussed and what we see. We share also the interest of sustaining a rule-based multilateral trading system. This is very important because you can do global trade in a very different way also, which is not following our value system. And for sure, our responsibility, India and Germany, is to promote peace, democracy, and the rules of law and respect for human rights. I think we should never forget the people also. And what you mentioned, I would say it is really a shame that we do not more. India and Germany, not only business. I talk also about exchange of people. I talk about culture. I talk about art. I talk about sports, lifestyle. We just have enjoyed the German Days digital. So in a few days, I mean, you were also present there. In a few days, we have showcased, and I think this is the future. The format is the future. Connected India, connected Germany, and also the content. We have 20,000 plus students in Germany. A big crowd, but 20,000 only. I mean, we should have one leg, you know. This is you know much more better. You have lived there, and I remember there's a city partnership, Mumbai and Stuttgart. 52 years, I think now, and last year I was there, and I could listen to an Indian entrepreneur who went to Germany to start his business there. It was very interesting. If I would talk about this, people would not believe. But just to give you one aspect, the first thing he did, he was leasing a fancy German car. He was in Stuttgart. You can imagine which kind of car. And he wanted to go to a city office of Stuttgart to support his businesses. But there was no parking. And he mentioned, hey, I'm in Germany, I have a fancy car, I don't have a parking lot, what should I do? And the lady told him, go by public transportation. Hey, I'm an Indian entrepreneur, I go to Stuttgart, public transportation, it's not possible, you know. Now he has settled wonderful ideas what he has brought in, and he's going by bicycle. He's going by bicycle from home to office. And he mentioned, I am from Pune. In Pune, an Indian MD is not taking the bicycle. It is not possible. You know, sometimes it is very narrow what you think about it. But your question, what do I have a tip? Do I have a good idea? I don't need two. I have only one. I have a very successful German business model on hand, the Mittelstand, right. SMSE. I would say if Indian entrepreneurs follow this successful model, then they will land also very successful in Germany. SMSE's Mittelstand companies believe in innovation, be innovative, in quality, have a long-term orientation. We are normally manufacturing, you know, we are not in financial service and whatever. Believe in long-term orientation and sustainability. And they have a good regional market knowledge. Get this market knowledge also there where you land. It's differently whether you land in Bavaria or in Stuttgart or maybe in one of the Eastern countries. All are wonderful there. And SMSEs, they live outstanding values and principles, even in a very highly competitive and in a complex and in the global world. They are often niche market players. They are very flexible. They invest in people. And I talked about jobs. Actually, these Mittelstand companies are the pool for education and also for vocationally trained people. And SMSEs are the backbone of sustainable success, and they are often hidden champions. Right. I work for one of these hidden champions, in the meantime, a global group. These Mittelstand companies were the driver, I mentioned this earlier, of the German Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle. And this is a business model which made also my company, Freudenberg, very successful, still a family-owned company, a global player, but still the idea, the spirit of a Mittelstand. And it's a future model. It is a future model also for Indian entrepreneurs. I am convinced that a Mittelstand company is a successful market player, even in the global world. So I can only invite Indian entrepreneurs to come to Germany and to set up their enterprise. Germany is a place to be.
Thank you. That's a good, very welcoming statement also, Mr. Graf. Mr. Graf, I must confess, I've been a great fan whenever I hear your speeches and talks. I've really enjoyed your talks, and I remember one incident, particular when you had come for the one of the VDMA events, and you got the broom, the jharu with you, and people were very surprised. Normally, when we talk about the manufacturing, the engineering industry, serious looking Germans, and you have always had a very different style, a very different, even in your talks, Mr. Graf. So my personal question to you, what I wanted to understand is, where do these ideas come from, Mr. Graf? What is the mantra to get such unique ideas and unique concepts, Mr. Graf?
You still remember this?
Yeah, I remember very clearly.
Must be 4 or 5 years back, right?
Yeah, in fact, I took one of the jharus, also the gala. I think it was from the gala broom. So I took it with me along in the flight back.
Thank you that brand is coming out of your mouth, you know. Gala Haushaltsproducts. No mantra, Mr. Naut. Bavarians like me have this quality by nature. However, I always liked people who were thinking a little bit out of the box.
Right.
I think this is very open to be very important to be open, to be curious. Maybe I have to explain this background, what you have mentioned with the budget session and the no dust room. When I was relocating to India, I saw this budget session in a new light. So many evening and lunch invitations during the time of budget analysis and cocktails and blah, 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 blah. I couldn't really follow. I couldn't understand what is happening. For me, a budget process is a very simple process in the parliament, you know. It will be discussed in the parliament. It is approved, and then it will be executed. I've never understood why India puts this up. You know, we are debating a lot. I mentioned this earlier. We are debating a lot, and we do not really execute. I mean, the relief program. We need 5 days to explain it. I think you don't need a minute to explain the outcome, but we took it up for 5 days to explain it. You know. So again, but to me, it appeared. And with a lot of respect for the topic. I mean, it's a government topic, it's a budget session, so don't understand me wrong. But I saw it as a little bit a media event only. For me, it was fun. Carnival. It's the same season, you know, in the spring. So this is why when you invited me to be a keynote speaker, I wanted to do it differently. And I have presented the Gala No Dust Room, which is actually the re-engineered natural grass broom. As you know, we have the sound of India in the morning, and it was a wonderful innovation. So it was a collaboration in between of Indian, Italian, and German engineers, and they have re-engineered the grass broom. You know, the grass is now fibers. It is a high-tech. It is a high-tech tool, and I wanted to showcase the innovation power of Freudenberg during this evening, using the example of a day-to-day tool, a broom. And somehow, there was also a mission from my side. I wanted to wipe out this complex budget analysis with our no dust broom. And I feel I was right, because nobody anymore is interested to listen to a budget session and to this kind of event. I think we people want to see the execution of the budget only.
Right. But
thank you to remember.
No, it was certainly, and I think not only me, but many in the audience would still remember that, Mr. Graf. Mr. Graf, it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish we had a little more time, but I've already consumed a lot of your time, Mr. Graf. Maybe the last question today, Mr. Graf. We are all sailing in the stormy waters of COVID. I think the responsibilities on CEOs, on industry leader is now much higher than before, and people are looking at each other for solutions, because I think nobody has a perfect solution, but each one is looking where some new ideas, new tips come in. And that is what I would like to also request you, Mr. Graf, to share your 2-3 thoughts on how leaders can withstand this stormy water of COVID and sail or navigate their boat through the stormy water. And I'm sure these tips or suggestions from your side would be very valuable for the CEOs of the German companies and the Indian industry also, Mr. Graf.
Okay, no, I agree. I think it is one of the main topics. There's no book knowledge. Chapter 3, pandemic activities of a CEO. It is not existing. It is new for all of us. It is new for all leaders. It is new for HR. It is new for HSE. It is new for logistic guys, politicians, even for consumers. I think you ask for 3 elements. I try to structure 3 elements. I think to connect to people is very important. Our global CEO, Dr. Mosensohi, he did multiple virtual town halls.
Okay.
And he's listening to the people worldwide. If I give a report about India, it is filtered already. But to get the unplugged situation, I think it's very important. And he did it many, many times. We had already frequently town halls also for India, for all the regions. I think this is very important to connect and to listen to each other and to listen to employees. Stay simple, be simple, show dignity, spread empathy, but also show that business and pandemic is not everything in life. Also maintain life balance, very important, very important. Otherwise, I think you burn out, it's not possible. Stay curious, stay innovative, and in no way compromise your company values. We have a set of values. I talked about the Mittelstand. We have so many wonderful German players in India, 1800. All of them are here. Wonderful companies, wonderful business models, but execute the right things fast. I think speed is very important. We have to execute, but we should have our long-term orientation as a golden thread. Execute fast, immediate, and have our long-term orientation always in mind. In Freudenberg, we have immediately issued a stringent contingency measure. But we are working on our strategic goals. I talked about this: digitalization, new mobility. Freudenberg is supporting the entire range of powertrains, and sustainability. And in sustainability, we focus more on climate change. By the way, we have a wonderful, interesting sustainability model, the foot and the handprint. Maybe we have another chance to talk about this. And I think this is very important to have the sustainable goals also in the full swing. And maybe, Mr. Nat, to make you a little bit more excited, I have to bring it down to the camera.
Right, mouth, nose, right, mask, right.
This is what Freudenberg did, you know. Three of our business groups, actually, Freudenberg Performance Material, Filtration, and Freudenberg Home and Cleaning Solutions, they have combined, innovating together, Freudenberg, they have combined their expertise in technical nonwovens, in filter media, and in distribution, and in a short span of time, they are producing in-house mask protection in a very efficient way. As we know, only social distancing and wearing mask is helping us in this time of Corona. Available only in Germany, therefore we have brought one container load to India, and we distribute now from Chandigarh to Nagapattinam and from Mumbai to Chennai this mask to CSR activities and to people who need it, not for us. And after this call, I will send a few to your office, and I would like to ask you to give it to people who need it in and around MG Road here in Bangalore. So this is one element what you could do: stay innovative and just execute.
Thank you, Mr. Graf. I think a very good example of how technology, getting the companies together and innovating to make a product which has presently a big demand and a big requirement. And also, I would just like to sum up some of the points you said: connect to people, stay simple. And one aspect certainly which I found very different from the other interviews I've had is your phrase, show dignity. I think this is very important also in this period of crisis. Empathy, and then maintaining the work-life balance. You correctly pointed out people are now finding, initially it was very nice to work from home, but I think now as the time goes by, people are finding this maintenance of work-life balance very difficult. Mr. Graf, I must thank you on behalf of VDMA, behalf of all our members, for the thoughtful insights you've shared with us today. And also on behalf of VDMA and my personal behalf, wishing the Freudenberg and all the very best, and wishing your lovely family also stay safe, stay well, and the best wishes for the festive season, Mr. Graf. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Nath.
Since you're more an Indian now, I'm talking about the festive season wishes also, although for Germany it's not festive, but in India the next week is the festive season, or this week, Mr. Graf. Stay well and stay safe. Thank you for joining us and for sparing your time, Mr. Graf. Yeah.
Thank you.